I don't think there's as much to dive into this week as there was last week with the different story elements, because it's mainly one event that takes place in this, and this is more of a setup for the end game of this show, because it is only going to be one season. It is a miniseries. There's nothing afterwards, so I don't think there'll be any cliffhangers or anything like that.
Yeah.
But from my point of view, and I don't know if you feel the same way, but after last week's episode, I think it's understood that we should all be viewing the remaining episodes of DEVS with the knowledge that Forrest and Katie know the future.
Yeah. I don't think I fully felt that way at the beginning of this episode, but definitely throughout the episode and by the time it ends, I think it's safe to assume that they know the future.
Right. Because last week, I mean, the first 5 episodes were kind of explaining this, but last week kind of stamped it down, and they explained to us that the DEVS system is a quantum computer running on the principle of determinism. Reminder for any newcomers that are listening, or if you're still not clear what determinism is, in the simplest of terms, it is the doctrine that basically there is no free will, that all events are ultimately predetermined, even human action. Cause precedes effect.
Right.
So with that principle and technology under control in this DEVS system, the DEVS team can project any historical event in the past, but more importantly, project events from the future. So whether you understand the science jargon that they're dropping throughout the show or not, to me as a viewer, you should understand that every conversation and scene from these next couple days in the show should be presumed that it has been vigorously studied and scripted by Forrest and Katie. And I think Alex Garland and the actors did a phenomenal job depicting this because of the scenes and the movements in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
For example, Lily and Jamie Lily decides that they are going to go to Forrest's house. She's going back to San Fran after he just drove off miles away to a random hotel. They're going back.
I think Napa. I think that's where he said they were.
Yeah, somewhere. So one of the main examples, like Forrest is waiting in bed like a vampire, and you see him in the dark just saying like, they're here. Like he was just waiting. So that right there to me is like, okay, he knew they were coming, right? And like scenes where like the Frisbee toss that they were having in the street, I pointed out while we were watching, I was like, do you see the way Forrest is catching it? He's like, Nick Offerman was like placing his hand to his right, and the Frisbee would come like right there. It's like he knew exactly where each Frisbee toss was going to go.
I don't know if I'm convinced by that. I think because he said it's the only sport I could play, and Jamie's like, Frisbee's a sport?
You don't watch the Olympics?
Yeah.
Not this year.
No, sadly. So I was just taking it that Forrest is a really good Frisbee player. But I mean, it could be like what you said. I mean, we've seen they watch the projections a lot, so who knows?
I'm saying they vigorously studied the Frisbee scene and then also the pen. The way Katie was strategically and purposely moving the pen around the table in the beginning of the conversation, to me, is just like she knows it has to exactly follow how she watched it.
Well, can we just say for a second, were you just as mind blown as I was when you found out Katie and Forrest were sleeping together?
Yes.
Like, what the fuck?
That was random.
And at first I was not happy about it. I was like, this seems super random. Like, no. But I don't know. As the episode went on and then they were like laying in bed together at the end talking.
Which was another fantastic scene.
It was so good.
It was a fantastic scene. You got to see.
Not mad about it anymore.
A completely different side of them.
Yeah.
And then the last example where I'm saying the actors did a good job. I think Forrest purposely had that Frisbee toss outside because he knew Kenton would be eavesdropping. So like the whole episode seemed to me to be laid brick by brick by Forrest and Katie.
Yeah.
But anyway, with all of that, the main purpose of this episode is the sit down conversation between Katie and Lily. And again, it's another fantastic scene. Every scene in this show has been phenomenal. Even like this is usually a filler episode in a lot of series. Yeah. And it was, but it didn't feel like it because this conversation had such a unique and like inviting way to explain the science in the show but like still keep you suspenseful,
Yeah.
right?
Yes. It was very dialogue heavy, which I personally like a lot.
Yeah, me too.
And it just seemed like these, what should have felt, or not should have felt, but you would think would feel like these kind of pointless conversations where you'd be sitting there as a viewer like, why the fuck are we talking about this? Weren't like that.
No, none of them.
You know, like when Forrest and Jamie were sitting on the porch at first, it was just I don't know if it was their chemistry or it was just such good writing. I just felt like I was entertained by them just sitting there chatting.
Right, because he pretty much, in Jamie's eyes, like, you tried to have me killed, or at least wanted to torture me enough for me to listen to you. He keeps looking at him like, seriously, dude?
I know.
What happened to my fucking finger? And Forrest is playing it off like he doesn't know, but I don't think Jamie's buying that. They're not.
Yeah.
It's just, oh man, I can't say enough about Nick Offerman and his job in this show. That scene too was great. The conversation he was having with him. Like I was saying, a lot of times in the show, the filler episodes, when they do this type of stuff, it derails the pace of the show. If you know, we're like climbing up, and then they drop a filler episode on you to set up the finale. This is not doing that. It's the total opposite. Like, my intensity has stayed totally upstairs from the second this show started, and it has not gone down.
I agree.
And that's fantastic to me. I haven't really seen a lot of shows do that before. So the intensity is still high in this conversation between Katie and Lily, but you're still learning the how, what, where, when, and why the dev system was created. So she explains even further what the machine is doing.
Yeah, that's something that I have to applaud this show for and the writers, because they're taking such a complex and confusing to most people.
We're talking about reality.
Subject.
The concept of reality.
And I honestly feel like they're explaining it so well.
They are. Like,
I feel like I'm understanding what they're talking about while I'm watching the episode. I don't have to go. Of course, I do, want to go do more research to just see if I missed anything. But while I'm watching it, I don't feel like I'm confused by the science behind it, because they're doing such a good way to explain it.
Katie explains it, how determinism works in the scene, through a game of questions, right? It's a little annoying
It's so annoying, because if I was Lily, I would have been like, okay, you're right. Just tell me the answer.
Yeah, she asked Lily to name a random event.
Right.
Any random event, to prove to her that there is no such thing. So everything that Lily is naming, Katie has a reason for it of why it's not random.
Yeah.
Whether it's oh no, that's not random, it's just complex, Yeah,
because the first one I think she named was a child getting leukemia.
Yeah. So that's how she explained it to her, which was very precise to us as viewers,
I thought
and
it was
understandable.
So yeah, I thought it was her quote by saying, I asked for a reason, not a good reason.
Not a good reason.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Which I liked. I mean, I feel like when she says that, it should be obvious. Like, oh yeah, like it doesn't always have to be a good reason, but sometimes our brain, I think, wants to
always find the good. Yeah. Like why it's happening.
Yes.
Like there's some greater purpose from God or someone else, that there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and she's saying no.
Yeah, she's a little bleak, but
But in this conversation, Katie drops the bombshell, which is the setting up for the finale of this. And that is, the quantum computer she explains to Lily that the quantum computer has only ever been able to project into the future up to a certain point.
Mm-hmm.
That point in time is tomorrow night in the show.
Yeah, about 24 hours or something?
24 hours from that meeting. Or no, I think
21 hours or something.
Yeah, something like that. She says the exact time. It's tomorrow night.
Yeah.
In the show. And that's also the same point in time that we saw in episode 4, which was the apparent death of Lily, on being projected in scatter at first, before they had the clear visuals of Lily dying. 48 hours away. A day has passed between episode 5 and 6. And now one more day through 2 episodes. Looks like what's about to happen.
Right, yeah.
So, according to Katie, it's an unknown event, triggers a total breakdown in cause and effect, a breakdown of determinism, a breakdown of the literal laws of the universe. That is her quote. Very worrisome. So, basically, in a nutshell, Lily is going to do something to corrupt this machine, to break down the literal laws of the universe in Katie's eyes.
Well, and before we get to the end game here, I do want to point out that, and we talked about the pin before, and I thought it was brilliant how she explained what exactly DEVS is doing with the pin. She like pushes the pin across the table, and she's like, "Why did the pin move?" And Lily's like, "Because you pushed it." Like, yeah, exactly. And she goes, if we can, have a computer and we can put in certain facts, I guess, certain things about the pin or the movement or whatever, the computer can tell us how hard it was pushed and how far it rolled. So, therefore, the computer is showing the past and it's also predicting the future.
Right.
She goes, now apply that to everything.
Yes.
Like, literally everything. And I think, like...
Which is, that concept right there, we will talk about later in Westworld, because it's the same thing with what Sirach is trying to do. Like,
holy shit. I feel like I'm getting chills just from that explanation. Like, it's just such a simple way to explain such a complex idea.
Right.
And I was like, that was brilliant.
It works. You, in the moment, were like, fuck.
Fucking shit. Like, yeah, it's crazy.
Applying that to everything.
Yeah.
Knowing everything. Right. So at the end of the conversation, Lily's kind of clapping back at her like, how do you know that I'll be? Because Katie explains to her, you will be at DEVS tomorrow night.
Yeah.
And she's like, how are you going to tell me what I'm going to do for a decision I haven't already made yet? It's still my decision. That's how Lily kind of storms out of the conversation. But Katie's like, no, you'll be there. I've seen this a million times. Like, this is supposed to be your reaction to it.
Yeah.
Now, I want to get into a possible theory.
Okay.
This is interesting. This one I cannot take credit for. I'll take credit for some other ones later. But reading more into this, it seems more and more plausible. And that is, maybe they weren't looking at Lily in the projection of the assumed death of her. Maybe that's not Lily in that projection.
It's a different universe?
Maybe it's Lyndon.
Oh, shit.
Just think about it. You have a female actress playing a male actor with Lyndon. And Lily's totally a tomboy, the way she dresses, and their haircuts are almost identical. Saw this on Reddit, that because the episode opens with Lyndon trying to get back into DEVS.
It does. And I made a note about that, of how stupid that is, because it's like, oh,
They're gonna kill you.
I drove down and then I hitchhiked backed up, and I'm like, do you not realize what they can seriously watch you basically having this conversation right now? Like, you can't trick them.
Exactly. And he knows that.
He should know that.
So someone pointed out, like, from the back shot, like, there's no telling.
That's actually such a good point. But she does say Lily. She says Lily dies in 48 hours.
Now, here is the other theory, I guess, that spills into. What if there's a lot of people that believe on Reddit, where I do a lot of my research. No, I honestly, though, I love Reddit because I feel like it's the most pure and unbiased conversation of any show.
For sure.
Because, like, these people aren't getting paid to post on USA Today and, like, other pop culture sites. Like, it's just genuine people like me and you discussing about the episode. So I like that human level feel of feedback and discussion versus, oh, I got paid a couple $100 to write this article type of thing. And I have a degree in grammar or whatever.
A degree in grammar.
You know how people, they just put fucking 20 adjectives before a fucking word on these things to make it sound juicy.
I have a BA in grammar.
So the other theory that a lot of people believe is that ever since Lyndon's algorithm, we have been seeing different planes, different tram lines already. We have already seen multiple universes. We're already in the multiverse. And the evidence that people are using for this, there's a couple.
Yeah.
One is the whole demeanor of Forrest completely seesawing. In the beginning, he was just ready to fucking kill people at will. And, you know, he was screaming at Katie to shut the fuck up.
Pretty cutthroat.
Very cutthroat.
Yeah.
You know, just ready, like literally ready to kill people whenever, and control. He was so controlling over everything.
Yeah.
Now in these past 2 episodes, very laid back, calm.
Yeah.
This conversation with Jamie, he gives words to him about letting go your losses, which he was just batshit crazy, fired Lyndon for discovering something astronomical to them because it wasn't going to be the exact Amaya. And now he's sitting here like, oh, we just have to let go. So people are kind of pinpointing his demeanor as being totally opposite. And then another one, which could be an accident on the set, but I don't think so.
No. I don't think it's.
You can actually look up. Now, this is a good debate. And that's Jamie's shelf. We saw the scene in episode 4 where he cleaned up frantically, all happy-go-lucky, that Lily was sleeping over his house. You know, ooh, I gotta make it look nice for her. And on the way out, they explicitly show his shelf falling off the wall.
Yeah.
The next time he is back in his apartment, after Lily escapes Kenton that episode, and the police come in the door, the wall is completely different. The shelf is back up. So people are saying that in between that, the only thing that happened was Lyndon discovering that it might be a different set of outcomes.
Right. We might be in a different universe.
So that's a theory people have. We interpreted it, I think, both the same originally, that scene was more of a metaphor of Jamie trying to control the chaos by cleaning things up.
Yeah.
And just when he thinks he's in control, he walks out and, you know, an accident happens that you don't want to come home to show that you have no control. Right.
That's exactly how I interpreted it. And I also kind of took it as maybe like a little bit of comic relief. Yeah. Because, you know, this show is so dense.
It's like you think you got your shit together, but you're fucked.
Yeah. And it kind of just kind of gives you like a little chuckle at the end of the scene. I mean, I like the theory. I think it might be looking a little too deep, but I do like it a lot.
So that's how the maybe it's Lyndon on the ground fits in.
Okay.
Because they're watching another timeline, another tram line, and it's actually theirs.
I still don't buy why she said Lily dies in 48 hours. If what we saw was Lyndon and that was a different universe, why did she still say Lily?
Because they believe it's their universe that they're living in. They think they're watching their universe, but they're not.
So they just misinterpreted it.
Yes.
Okay.
That's the idea of it.
Gotcha. I mean, I think that's a very interesting theory.
Yeah, because, I mean, the detail in this show, it feels like things aren't by accident. So something about
I don't think so.
The casting of Lyndon and the fact that the attire and haircuts are exactly the same between Lyndon and Lily.
Yeah, they're very similar.
Maybe.
Yeah.
And like, why else would Lyndon still be a part of this story? He wants to get back into DEVS. We know that from this episode.
It's so true. I like this theory a lot.
Right.
Yeah.
And this kind of fits into the theory I had all along about how this show was going to end. And it's more evident now, especially because we know Lily causes this anomaly in their system.
Mm-hmm.
How I thought before I went into my rabbit hole on Reddit, how I thought it was going to go down was because Lily has this knowledge, she was going to perform a real act of free will. And it was going to cause the fucking machine to blow up because the machine only operates on the principle of determinism.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that determinism is our reality. It's a machine, like Lily says, like someone made it.
Exactly, yeah.
So you're making a machine that has a billion algorithms in it. Like, sure, it can make outcomes and visualize things in the past.
Right.
But it's still a fucking machine.
Yeah.
So I thought, from my own personal take on it, that Lily would perform an act of free will.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe she kills herself. Something that drastic. Something that the machine did not predict. And it causes the machine itself to... It's almost like the machine sees what she does and is like, fuck, I didn't predict that. And just like, it rattles its whole world and it explodes.
I think my initial thought was the world's ending. The world's gonna end.
From that conversation, I got those vibes.
Yeah. I mean,
if it stops at that certain
point. That's like just what initially I thought. Like, I didn't think it was going to be. I didn't really think anything was going to specifically cause it. I just thought it meant the world is ending. And I thought it was interesting that when Katie and Forrest are laying in bed at the end, she was like, only a few more hours now. Like, we waited. It's no longer years, it's hours. So they've known about this for years.
Exactly.
Yeah. I do love that they kind of, leading up to this, we're thinking Forrest might be just this madman that's trying to bring back his daughter. But there's something bigger. And I like that.
There is, yeah.
I like that a lot.
We know what the show's about, but we still have no clue what this endgame is going to hit us with.
I know.
I have a feeling it's going to slap us in the face and say, like, we led you on to this determinism the whole time, but guess what? It's not our reality.
Yeah.
It's free will does exist, and that's why Forrest is wrong. The multiverse is real.
And free will is a thing.
And free will is. That's what creates this multiverse. Every decision you make is another outcome, another tramline.
Yeah.
So I think he's just wrong. I think determinism is not how it works.
I mean,
but you built a fancy little machine to convince you that.
Not like
which is gonna fucking shatter his world when he realizes that he is to blame for his family's death.
It's not like the conclusion of DEVS is what is real. But I hope free will is a thing. I don't like the concept of determinism at all, personally.
No, you control your life. Your thoughts control your life. Believe that 110,000%.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not really sure where this is going to go. And I like that I'm not sure where this is going to go.
Here's one thing I wanted to point out. And this is another reason why I fucking love this show. Does anybody have plot armor?
I don't know.
Like, is there anybody who you're like at the end of this is still going to be standing?
No.
No shot. There's not one person that I'm like, they're safe.
No.
Right?
No.
And I love that intensity. Like, as a viewer, that's a great feeling to have. Like, there's no Arya Stark in the show. Like, plot armor's good and bad, and I like having just completely open ended. Like, anyone can fucking die right now.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. I wouldn't be surprised if anybody died or lived. Like, I think it could go either way for anybody.
And the last thing I wanted to mention, we talked about a couple of cool theories here, but if we're supposed to be taking things as literal as they are presented in the show, I think Kenton is going to be the reason Lily winds back up at DEVS, if this is the route we're going, because, like we said, Forrest orchestrated that Frisbee toss meetup because he knew Kenton would be watching. He knew how he would take it. And Kenton says, like, oh, they're all buddy-buddy now. So in my head, I can't figure out why that would cause Kenton to possibly kidnap Lily and bring her back to DEVS, but I feel like if it is Lily who's there, which I don't believe now anymore, I think it's going to be Lyndon that's actually there. Because why would she go back now?
I'm thinking it's
Lyndon.
Especially
with that knowledge.
Yeah.
But if it's supposed to be as literal as it is, which I don't believe, then I think Kenton will be the reason why she's there, forcing her to be there.
Yeah, see, I think if that's the case, I'll have a little bit of a problem with it because, we're talking about free will and determinism, and I thought it was very interesting because Lily was so adamant that she would not come back to DEVS. And I'm like, wonder what will happen that will make her go with, like, in her free will. Like, I don't find it as intriguing if she's kidnapped and brought there. Like, I don't think that is an interesting story.
Yeah, that would be terrible. It wouldn't be fitting for the show at all.
Right. So I'm like, I hope.
But what would be so enticing to bring her back there? It's not like they could say, "Oh, Sergey's alive," by the way, because
no, she knows he's not.
This isn't like the love of her life type. I think she's realizing that. She realized that in this episode.
She did
when she came back. Cuddy buddy with Jamie, biggest smile on his face ever. Like, boy,
you can come to my bed.
No, it wasn't like that. It was like, no, you sleep with me. And he's like, what? Like, fluffing his pillows. Like, no, you sleep here now.
She's not talking like a gorilla.
Borderline.
Or a Neanderthal.
She does sound like a robot sometimes. Like,
yeah, I did point that out while we were watching. Sometimes I can't tell if it's not great acting on this actress's part or if she's supposed to be playing this part like this. I don't know. It comes off kind of robotic.
Yeah, but
it does.
In that scene, you see that she realized herself that Sergey was not real to her because she didn't know who he actually was, that he was actually a fucking spy. She's like, what I had with you, Jamie, was real. So what would be so enticing to bring her back to DEVS? I feel like she's totally done with fucking Sergey.
I don't know. And that's why, I don't know. That's why I'm so interested about how she gets back there.
I think it's Lyndon.
And if it is, I like that theory a lot. I don't like that if Kitten just kidnaps her. I think that's just kind of like
Katie would say, I don't think any event in this show is random. So why would they still have Lyndon a part of this story?
Yeah. Yeah. Very true.
His life's work, he's like, son, you're 19, which I thought he was like 12, by the way.
I did too.
But
he was like 14.
Yeah, he's like, oh, my life's work is, and the other dude, I always forget his name, the black dude is like
Stewart
is like, you're 19. Like, you know, Einstein didn't discover whatever until he was 26. Like, you're good.
You're good, dude.
You can start your own Amaya, dude. Chill. You have fucking $10 million.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm rolling with. Two things. Determinism is not, they're going to slap us in the face, 180, say, yep, that's not how things actually work, because Lily will perform some act of free will, and that it is actually Lyndon on the floor crawling.
I like it.
That's where I'm going with it.
I like it, and then I also hope we're very wrong.
Yeah, that's the fun of this stuff. I love when this is the benefit of shows coming out once a week.
Yes.
And you give yourself 6 days to theorize and conspirize of like the littlest details, like the shelf.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times they're not true, but we don't do this to be right. It's fun.
It is.
You know, we're not here to nitpick and like, oh, I was right. Like, you know, fucking finger in your face. Like, no, it's just fun to theorize this stuff. That was the best experience with Game of Thrones. Why I'm happy I watched it when it first came out and not a bandwagoner like 90% of the people who just watched it when the finale,
the last season, the last and worst season.
And they're like, oh, it was terrible. And there's so many people like that. Yeah, I'm very much enjoying this show. Like always, I can't talk it up enough.
Yeah, I am loving it.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's amazing.
So like I mentioned before, the whole conversation and thing with the pen, predicting the outcomes based on past events, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. Very fitting into Westworld's episode this week.
Yeah.
With what we learned what Sirach is trying to do. So let's move on over to Westworld, episode 4.
Yes. So I knew there was it was a shortened season, but I didn't start.